Welcome to Daybreak with Ted Tibbett and Michael Paul. If you have a comment, you can call us now at 261-0898 or pound 981 on any C Spire device. Our email is newsradiomornings@gmail.com.
And good morning on a beautiful, good-looking Thursday, 16 minutes after 7 o'clock. We're honored to have as our guest this morning Congressman Michael Guest from Mississippi's 3rd Congressional District. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning, gentlemen. Great to talk to you today.
Yeah, it's so good to have you, and we appreciate it. The studio crowd is actually very excited that you showed up with us this morning. And look, by the way, it was a pleasure to get to see you last week while I was in D.C. Thank you so much for just stopping for, the couple of minutes you did to take a picture and say hello. I was actually coming to see my buddy Mike Ezel and had the opportunity to see you and got to see Cindy Hyde-Smith and, just had a really good time. And I appreciate the hospitality.
Well, and thank you for stopping by. Your listeners probably don't know that my office and Mike Ezel's office are about 3 doors down from one another in the Cannon office building. And so that's great because that gives me the chance on a regular basis to interact with Mike, not only when we're on the House floor or in a Homeland Security Committee meetings together, but just to go down there and spend time with one another, sit down, talk a little bit about family and faith and the things that are important to us outside of politics. But really appreciate you coming by and seeing us yesterday. And again, thank you again, you and Ted, for having me on for a few minutes this morning.
Well, we're happy to have you, and we thank you for joining us. There's a lot of stuff going on in Washington. I mean, Homeland Security, that's one thing with the border crisis, the things that we're seeing there. That's just like every day we hear something about that. But I guess the pressing problem right now that you guys are faced with in Congress is the government shutdown. Is that going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Are you guys going to get together? Can you give us your thoughts?
I'm going to predict that it is very likely that there will be a government shutdown. I think the question is going to be how long that shutdown will last. It's kind of a dual-track approach that we as a Republican conference in the House are trying to deal with. One is trying to get our individual spending bills passed, and those spending bills have been held up over some internal disputes over top-line numbers, but it does look like that after a long meeting last night with the entire conference, that we're going to be able to get those spending bills back on track. And we do anticipate getting to the floor sometime today the Republican-written defense spending bill, which will include conservative riders, conservative policies, and will also fund our military, not only the equipment and warfighting materials that we need, but will include a needed pay raise for many of our entry-level military members. And so that bill should be coming to the floor today. We also believe that it's important to move the Homeland Security Appropriations Bill. You mentioned a little bit about what's happening on the border, and particularly in places like Eagle Pass, Texas, where we are now seeing over 4,000 immigrants a day coming across just at that individual checkpoint. That's not border-wide. That's one particular checkpoint in one sector of the border where we're seeing our border actually just being flooded and overwhelmed with immigrants, many coming from Central and South America. So those are things we're going to be dealing with. And at the same time, Michael, as most of your listeners probably know, I think you've got a listening audience that is fairly in tune with things that are happening politically. The government funding runs out at the end of the month. So we've got just over a week to try to find something, some legislation that we can pass to try to keep funding and keep the government open for some period of time. I don't think we're going to get those things all done between now and the end of the month. I think that we will have to continue to have discussions internally as a conference about what we feel is the best path forward. And again, we had those we had that type of meeting for 2.5 hours last night. and we'll continue to kind of work through it. But I do believe that there will be a government shutdown. I don't think that we will have the ability to get those things done between now and the end of the month. And then the question is, how long does that government shutdown last? If it's a matter of a couple of days, it really has no impact or minimal impact on the citizens and on the economy. The longer that shutdown goes on, the greater that those impacts will be felt.
Okay, so let's just take a step back. Just an overview of what's going on with this budget issue, the funding of the government. If you just step back and look at it and say, okay, what are the factions here? What is the reason why Republicans can't get together? Some people want this, some people want that. What exactly is it?
The major issue on the funding bills or the appropriations bills is going to be that top line spending number. What is the total amount of money that we are going to spend on the discretionary spending bills that Congress has the authority to authorize? And so those bills, as written up, the Appropriations Committee have come in at a number not only lower than last year, but a number lower than the debt ceiling number agreed to by the Speaker and by the White House. But there are others who want us to cut those numbers even further. And so top line spending is the main driving force behind us not being able to get those appropriation bills to the floor. And look, I'm one of the people that, I want to cut as much as we can. And I will support whatever funding bills that cut government to the greatest extent possible. But I also understand that some of our more, I'm going to say centrist members who have been elected in seats that President Biden won, they have concerns about the amount of government reduction and fear for them that it's going to cause them political blowback back home if there are services that are crucial to their district which suffer cuts, in the range of 10 to 20%. And that's what we're talking with many of these spending bills. So many of these spending bills that Republicans have written up, we are cutting spending in many categories by 10% or more. And so, if we need to go back and we need to do further cuts to get to that top line number, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to do whatever we need to advance these bills forward, but doing so making sure that whatever product we create, that we spend less money this year than we spent last year.
So I keep hearing from different congressmen from different areas of the country that what they would really like to do is to be able to have individual bills for each agency. And apparently that's the way it used to be done instead of like this big omnibus bill. The omnibus bill is something that, been going on for a long time. How do you fall on this?
I agree. We need to deal with each of these spending bills individually. We don't need to package these bills up into an omnibus bill where it's just one vote up and down the entire government. And we also don't need to look at packaging several bills together. The House of Representatives needs to take up all 12 spending bills individually. So far, we've only been able to take up one. We passed our Veterans Milcon bill earlier in the year, and so we've got 11 more bills that we need to pass. And look, I think we need to stay here as long as it takes to get these bills to the floor. Let's have those debates on each bill. Let's let members offer amendments. Let's vote on the amendments, and then let's finally vote on the spending bills. I think it is important that we get back to regular order where we're debating each bill individually, and then each bill is going to be passed, and they're going to have to stand on its own merits, and we're not grouping large spending areas together. So I agree with those who call for individual votes on each spending bill.
Hey, Congressman, can you shoo that bird away that's tweeting behind you?
I'm sorry. Let me walk over here. I'll move out. I'll try to move to a place that he won't be in the background.
That guy is loud this morning. He is happy. Let me ask you a serious question, though. I mean, how did we get to this omnibus bill thing? Where did all this come from? And does it make it easier to get, stuff in there? I don't know, because I don't understand exactly how it works. But it seems like that this has been the trend, and that you guys have not been able to do what you call regular order and do the normal bills, bill by bill. How did we get to where we are?
This is something that unfortunately the Congress has kind of gravitated to and has been common practice now since I've been here. I've been here for 5 years. We've never passed individual spending bills. Of course, this is the first time that I've been in Congress that Republicans have controlled the House of Representatives. When Speaker Pelosi was in charge, when the Democrats controlled the House, they wanted these big omnibus spending bills. They wanted to put everything in there together because you're right. It makes it easier for individuals to put individual projects in there, projects that maybe pet projects, if you will, that are only going to bring benefit to a small part of the individual district. And it also makes it easier to increase spending. And that's something that Republicans have been very adamant about, is we've got to reverse this spending trend. We've got to be able to bring down those deficits that we've seen grow exponentially, particularly over the last couple of years with some of the COVID funding and some of the bills that were passed strictly with Democrat support that added trillions of dollars to our national debt. And we've not passed individual spending bills again since I've been here. If we're able to do that, and if we're able to pass spending bills whose top line number is less than the year before, that will be something that Congress has not done in decades. And that's the plan, and that's what we hope to be able to accomplish. But for us to do that, we're going to have to be prepared to stay here night and day, stay here on weekends, and get our business done. We can't be up here for a week, pass one bill, go home, and come back another week and deal with a second or a third bill at that time. We've got to be in here sitting down day after day, passing multiple bills, getting our business done, because ultimately, Michael, whatever we pass in the House, we send to the Senate. The Senate version is going to be different than the House version. Then you've got to go to conference and rectify the differences in those bills, and that's going to take time. And so we've got to do everything that we can on the House side to make sure that we're not the entity that's holding up these spending.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's move on to one other thing. Yesterday, Merrick Garland was interviewed, or I don't know what you would call it. It's a hearing that they had with Merrick Garland. I didn't really glean anything from that interview. What's the mood in Washington about Merrick Garland and how the Justice Department seems to be one-sided? In other words, if you're a Republican, you get hammered. If you're a Democrat, you get, they slide.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak only from the Republican point of view, but it does seem that we have a two-tier justice system, that if you're conservative, that if you're Republican, that the justice system is not only apt to prosecute you, but to investigate you very aggressively, to use their resources to try to silence those conservative voices. But if, on the other hand, if you're a member of the Biden family, or you are someone of the Democratic persuasion that has some degree of influence, that the Justice Department gives you a free pass. And so there is great anger, if you will, with the Justice Department and the way that many people feel that they have not treated everyone fairly. And look, we know justice is supposed to be blind. I'm a former prosecutor. You're supposed to look at each case based on its merits, not based upon the individual being charged or what their political affiliations are. And it just doesn't seem to myself and to many members of the community that that's what's happening with our current Justice Department. And so while I wasn't able to watch the hearings yesterday, I was actually in a Homeland Security hearing with Sheriff Ezel on the border crisis and the impact that we're seeing in New York. Was
y'all
able
call him
to
Sheriff
cut
up
bits
there?
and pieces. I do. I think everybody else calls him Congressman, but he's always been Sheriff to me.
Unfortunately, we are out of time. But thank you so much for joining us, and I think we're going to have you and Congressman Ezell next Wednesday.
Man, looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.